Hello, thanks for joining me for Samuel in Summertime. Today is Thursday, June 10th, and we are looking at the 10th chapter of 2nd Samuel. Now, what happens in the 10th chapter is another battle. At the very beginning, we learn that the Ammonite king is died. And so David sends condolences to his son, the new king, patrilineal kingship. But the Ammonites are suspicious of David, and they think that the people he sent with the condolences are just spies there to check things out and make sure that they can invade the Ammonites and win. And so, in response to that suspicion, they gather up all the men that David sent his condolences with. They shave off half their beards and they cut their clothes at the waist. This seems weird. Yes. But that's what they do. And the men are very ashamed, and David is enraged. So he tells them to go somewhere, I forget where he tells them to go, and wait till your beards grow back and then come home. So that's kind of, I guess, what they do. But we don't hear anything more about them. What we hear about is that David was unhappy with the action of the Ammonites. And when they saw that they had become odious to David, the Ammonites sent and hired the Arameans to fight for them. So you remember who's the Aramean, right? Hadadezer, he's back. So they the Arameans of both Beth Rehob and Zobah, because Zobah would be the one with Hadadezer of Zobah or Zeba, something. I forget what it was. But then so all these people, they have all these crazy names, and they send all these thousands of men. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab. Remember Joab? He has the brother, and the third brother was the one that was running with the spear, and he died. So Joab comes up with this strategy where he arrays all his men against the Arameans, because those are the ones coming at him, and he takes another section of men and arrays them against the Ammonites, and he puts his brother, now I always forget his name, it starts with an A, Abishai, in charge of the array to fight the Ammonites should it become necessary. So, in the battle, of course, because Joab is representing King David, David's armies win against the Arameans. But he had done these two arrays to prepare if the Arameans are too strong, we'll fall back and we'll fight the Amalekites. So, but when the Arameans saw that they were defeated by Israel, they gathered themselves together, and Hadadezer sent and brought out the Arameans who were beyond the Euphrates, and they came to these two other places, and the commanders of the armies of Hadadezer and their head. And then when they told David, he gathered all Israel together and crossed the Jordan and came to Helam, which is where the Arameans were. And the Arameans arrayed themselves against David and fought with him. So there's another battle, and the Arameans fled before Israel. And David killed the Arameans 700 chariot teams and 40,000 horsemen, and wounded the commander. And he died there. And then all the kings that were under Hadadezer, so those other kings, I guess, learned that they were defeated by Israel. They became Israel's servants. They didn't try to fight anymore, so they were done. And And the lesson here is don't ever come to the aid of the Ammonites. I was calling them the Amalekites before. The Ammonites. Don't come to the aid of the Ammonites, because that's how this whole thing started in the first place. The Ammonite king dies. They send the condolences. There's this assumption made that there are spies, so they shave off half their beards and embarrass them and humiliate them. David gets mad, and in a preemptive strike, they hire the Arameans to fight the Israelites. So the long and the short of it is the Arameans learned their lesson. Do not come to the aid of the Ammonites, because it will only end in death and destruction. That's the lesson, I suppose. What do you think about the questioning of David's motives there? He was a conqueror, a raider, a marauder of many groups, and maybe that was a good guise under which to spy around. Oh, I'll send my condolences. But if you consider he's the greatest king of Israel, he has probably reverence for grief and loss. The Jews, they said Shiva. I don't know if that was a thing back then, but there's a lot of observance around death and dying, and maybe he was trying to console the new king. Maybe he's trying to make alliances. Maybe he's trying to have better neighbor relationships. I don't know. But here's what I do know. Shaving off half of the beards was weird. That's a strange thing to do. And I can't find in my commentaries where that's a common thing. It was just odd. Very embarrassing. Very humiliating. And I think they were hedging their bets. They would have killed the guys, but they said, maybe his intentions are good. But at the end of the day, a whole bunch of other people died because they got into all these fights about it. So, but that's chapter 10. So, there's a holiday associated with this chapter where men shave off half their beards. Just kidding. It's not true. Wouldn't that be funny, though, if there was like, oh, it's Arameans fight in place of the Amalekites Day. I don't know what they would call that. Every festival has a name, but and then you'd have to go around in a half shirt because they cut off their clothes at their waist. Very, very strange. But King David cannot be defeated, and he doesn't have to even be there. Joab and his brother Abishai, I think that's his name. They were there getting the arrays, working things out, getting the strategy going, and success. So David's on a roll. He can't lose. See you tomorrow.